Okay, now we're officially starting. So first of all, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you're in. I'm not sure which ones you're in, but I just want to welcome everybody and thank you for your time to come and hear the updating webinar that I am doing today. As I promised everybody in the beginning that when there were changes to anything, I would keep them updated. So I'm trying to make sure I keep my promise. So let me introduce you to some people today and talk a little about what we're trying to accomplish today. First of all, the handsome gentleman you see up top, other than myself, is Pernell Went. He's my representative. He handles the Northern California area for Sandals. So when I need something and I come crying, I come to Pernell. Down in the bottom is Sandra Law. She's in the Seattle Pacific area. She was in the Northern California area, but I kept telling her how great Seattle was, and she said, "I'm up and I'm out." So now she's up in the Northwest Pacific Northwest area, handling everybody there. So what our goal is today is, first of all, I want Pernell to go through from plane to getting on the plane, in the plane, landing, hitting the resort, what's life around the resort since COVID, and what type of precautions they're taking as far as protocol is concerned. My main goal is to make sure people realize the extent that Sandals and everybody's going through to make sure they have a safe and secure vacation, because we don't want anybody going down there and having any problems as far as their health is concerned. So that's my main goal. And when we bring Sandra on, not only is she going to talk about that, but she's going to let you know a little bit about Turks and Caicos, where she just came back from as well. I've been talking about Jamaica all before, so I wanted you to see that Jamaica is not the only property that Sandals has. So Sandra will be coming on and telling you a little bit about Turks and Caicos. I've never been to Turks and Caicos. My wife is licking her chops now since she's seen some of the pictures. So just before Sandra comes on, I will play a little 2-minute film about Turks and Caicos, and then she'll tell you what they've been going through as far as protocol is concerned. So let me start out by telling you a little something about, before you even get to the plane, one of the things that you're going to have to remember to do, and please write yourself a note about this, before you travel, even come to the airport, they're going to want a negative COVID test. So do not do that any more than 10 days earlier. Don't try to do it 20 days earlier, or they won't accept it. They will only accept it 10 days, no more than 10 days earlier than the time that you're traveling. So go get your COVID test. My suggestion is to double up on it. Most of the insurances are handling it. So I would suggest doing it a month before to give yourself a baseline, because you don't want to jump in at the particular time period and find out you have a little tweak in the health, and now you got to panic because now you got to worry about whether you can get that cleared up before you can travel. So my suggestion is to get a baseline maybe a month before. When you get a negative from that, keep yourself safe, wear your mask, stay away from large crowds. Don't allow anybody in your house who is not taking care of themselves. Just don't allow anybody in your house. Tell them you got a vacation to go on. When you take the test, the thing you have to keep in mind, wherever you go to take your test, the place has to be accredited by a particular agency. So it has to be CAP accredited, CLIA registered, or ISO certified, ISO 15189. So those things are very important. They are not accepting rapid home tests. Don't even try. They're not accepting that. Now they are accepting antigens now, antigen tests, because they said they are quicker. They're quicker and they're less expensive. Don't cost as much. But like I said, most of the insurance companies are paying for them. So you need to do that no earlier than 10 days before. Do not forget that. And I'll be bugging you and reminding you about it before it's time to travel. So now, later on, I'll be talking about what Sandals has done as far as insurances are concerned. and you're really going to love it. Now, why don't I bring in Pernell? And Pernell, I've done all my tests. I've had them stick the thing up my nose all the way to my brain, and it's come back as negative. And I'm on my way to the airport, and I get to the airport. Start me from there what your experience was. He has just come back.
All right. Thank you so much, Fred. Good afternoon, everyone. I always enjoy these sessions with you, sir. Really, really appreciate it. Fred made mention that you need to get a negative COVID test 10 days prior to travel. One thing that I would also recommend, and this is something that I learned from Diane Holland, that's a JTB representative, don't do it on the 10th day. At least give yourself an additional day just in case there is a flight delay or anything and you missed that first day. It would kick you outside of the 10 days. So I did mine I was due to travel to Jamaica on the 10th. I did mine on the 2nd because the 1st of January was a public holiday. So what it did for me, I had a 2 days buffer just in case that there's a delay in my flight. You're still within the 10 days requirement. So that's something that I did. Also, something that you also need to look at once you get your negative test, just make sure that it has your name, your date of birth, and also the test that you administered. As Fred said, Jamaica requires either your PCR or an antigen test. So those are the two tests that Jamaica requires, all right? And make sure, of course, the big old negative, make sure it's there, that it's visible. Another thing that you also need to do prior to going to Jamaica, you need to request travel authorization to Jamaica. This has to be done 5 days before you travel. You cannot do it before, but at least 5 days before you travel. And that takes, once I filled out all the details, click submit, I got the authorization back within 2 minutes.
Let me interject something there right quick, Pernell. That's an automated system, so I will be sending you those links. I won't send them to you now because it's so far out, somebody's going to not read that email, they're going to lose that email. So I will send it to you at least a month ahead of time, and that way, as you're going through it, if you have questions, you can call me and we'll go over everything.
All right, so those are there. And remember, I know Fred will guide you through, but these two documents you have to take with you. They're not going to allow you to board without these two documents. Now, so I traveled from San Jose to Dallas, Dallas to Miami, Miami to Montego Bay. That's what I did. And all the way through, they ask for these documents. They're not going to allow you to board. But especially the Miami, your final leg into Montego Bay, they're going to ask you again for it. So when I arrived in Jamaica, it was no longer required because they are of the opinion that all the other entries, the other gateways, verified the documents, at least verified the details. So if you got to Jamaica and you didn't have it, it meant that somehow all the other connections overlooked it. So that was a requirement before getting into Jamaica. When I arrived in Montego Bay, Jamaica, it was smooth sailing. I arrived, they welcomed us. They, checked our temperature. We were sanitized, and we were, so that was a really smooth sailing. I went into the Jamaican line, of course, because I'm a resident. So I just told all the others goodbye. I'm back home. So it was smooth sailing.
Well, let me ask you, when you say you were sanitized, I mean, are they spraying you down with Lysol or just on your hands or what?
Your temperature was checked, but just on your hand.
Okay.
Just on your hand. You were sanitized and, so there are different, stations and all of that, but well organized all the way through. And that was it. That was it. Nothing was required. And this is something that also, if you are traveling as a tourist, you're going for your vacation, you completed all the necessary things, you sanitized, nothing is required of you. Once your temperature is in order, once your document is in order, you just really go straight and claim your luggage. Nothing, no one asked me, why are you here, whatever it is. I did my paperwork and I was escorted all the way through. So it was smooth sailing for me. All right, so once I clear customs and immigrations, I got my bags. The Sandals and Beaches desk welcomed me. My temperature was also checked again. And I was sanitized, hands, and escorted into the lounge where I was offered a cocktail, and we relaxed, physically distanced away in terms of how the table settings were in the Sandals and Beaches lounge.
Let me back up and ask you a question. Let me back up and ask you a question. On the plane, was everybody masked up on the plane? And did you have any people who were giving pushback about that?
All right. So on the flight, once we got to the door, you were given a bag with water and pretzel and a hand wipe. That was really it. So I would encourage all of you, either you eat before or you take it with you, because that bottle of water and that little pack of pretzel was not doing a 5.5 hours flight for me. All right, so once we got on board, it was a requirement. They were announcing it. Everyone must wear their mask. They also said that the only time that you're required to remove your mask when you're having a drink or having a quick snack, but you were to remove it at that time, and you also put it back on. So it was a requirement. Also, there was an ongoing announcement over the intercom saying that if you refuse to follow, they're going to bar you from all future American airline flights. So that was a requirement. For me, I wasn't too sure what the experience was going to be for me, but the flight from San Jose to Dallas was full. And American Airlines, they are keeping their 3 seats capacity per row. So you're going to be sitting beside others on the flight. So I traveled on American Airlines. So the flight was full from San Jose to Dallas. It was full from Dallas to Miami. When I from Miami to Jamaica, I had my own row. So that was pretty good. So I was giving others a joke that I just didn't know what to expect. So I requested corner seat, and I was just looking through the window for the entire duration of my flight. But I kept my mask on. They recommend at this time that you put on double layer. So I felt safe. The flights, the air, in terms of what they use, the sanitizer and whatever they use, it felt clean, it felt fresh, it felt light, but everyone had on their mask.
Okay, good. Yes. Okay, now you've landed in Montego Bay and you've had your cocktail at the Sandals Lounge. Now, when it comes time to board the bus, what are they using and what protocol are they using for buses? Are they using small jitneys? Are they using big buses? Just what?
Okay. All right. So once they announced that your shuttle was ready, the bellmen escorted us through to the shuttle. We traveled in a 15-seater, but they have different layers of transportation. One, all depends on the category that is reserved, especially for the 2 resorts in Montego Bay. You'll get the 7 Series BMW, but I was going to Negril, so it was a bus. So you could go in a larger bus, either a 25, a 50-seater, or a 15-seater, but I went in a 15-seater. They accommodated 4 of us because they removed some of the seating capacity. So on my 15-seater, there were 4 of us on my 15-seater. The driver was up front. He actually sanitized us before we got on board. So he had on his mask. All the other travel advisors that went with me had on their mask. So we were physically distant in terms of I was comfortable. Okay. And that's what they've done. So I traveled in a 15-seat over to the.
Okay. So they kept you spaced far enough apart to be able
that
to be a problem. Okay.
Yes, and all of us had to wear. We continue wearing our mask.
Okay, great. Okay, now you arrive at the resort. Step me through there all the way up to the room.
All right, so when I arrived, the first bus came up, a rep came out and introduced everyone. And then we were escorted to the desk, which is just a few steps up at Beaches Negril, and we were sanitized and our temperature was checked. After that, we were offered a chilled or warm towel. And that felt really, really absolutely amazing. So once we were tested there, sanitized, offered a chill towel, we were then escorted into the concierge lounge where I checked in and along with the others. Once we opened the door into the concierge lounge, we were also asked again to sanitize. So they kept this healthy protocol all the way. So the chill towel was taken and we were sanitized. We were seated, offered a drink, given our registration information. So once we were through registering, social physical distance was really absolutely in order because there were different areas that clients and travel advisors that were able to check in. So the bags were marked and they told us that our bags will be marked and brought to the room. We were escorted to the room and at my door, there was a seal that was placed on my room door. And that seal signified that the room was thoroughly cleaned, steamed, sanitized, and the equipment that they used to validate the cleanliness and preparation of the room. Once that was done, there was a seal that was placed on the door and only the clients arriving as the authority to remove that seal. And I had the pleasure in removing the seal off my door and went in. The bags were at the door because they cannot put the bag in the room without you being there because it meant that they would have broken the seal. So I opened the door, the bag was brought in, and when I got to my room, there were sanitizers. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. A lovely bottle of sanitizer there with wipes, and the room just felt extremely clean, very light in comparison to a resort that I stayed at, not Sandals, in Miami. When I checked in, I had to ask them, what is your protocol of cleanliness for these rooms? I felt the burden, I felt the weight, you know. But when I got to beaches, oh my God, it was like, oh my God, it was so light, it was so clean, it was really ready for me. So that was my experience checking in. So I felt really, really safe. All management and staff at the resort, you're required to wear a mask. All staff. You're going to see all staff, all management, everyone wore a mask every single step of the way. In terms of the guests that were there, you're not required to wear a mask unless you get into a confined, close area where others are. Like if you're on the buffet, and even then I didn't see some, but when you get into closed corners, closed corridors, that was where masks were required. So it wasn't necessary to wear it when you're eating, wear it when you're on the beach, wear it when you're at the bar or the pool. It wasn't necessary, but only when you get into close confined areas like the gift shop, like the spa. I utilized the spa service as well. I had to go and test it to see what their protocols were. I utilized that. I also, as I told you earlier on, Fred, I actually sat in my room watching the room attendant clearing the room, because I checked in, watching them getting it back together and, quizzing them. But in terms of physically distance throughout the resorts, management staff wore masks. Guests weren't allowed, required to, unless you get into close corners.
Now, when you are there to go into your room, I've been reading about these electronic wrists where you don't even have to touch the door; it opens automatically. Is that still the protocol that you wear? The I guess Bluetooth type of a thing that you just brush across the door.
That's not in place at Beaches Negril. I had a swipe that I just swiped my room. So I don't know if other resorts possible will implement that, but I just had my key, my plastic key that I just swiped, and it brought it.
Okay. Now, one of the majority of the folks on this webinar are going to be with me in Jamaica, and there's a wedding group that's on here, a retie the knot. Now, my question is, when it's time to have the all-together dinner, how's that done? Like let's say you have 20 people. So do they separate the tables little by little, but put you all in the same area? How is that done when it comes time to eat?
All right, so
eating as a group.
Okay. As a group, the resort, they're gonna maintain their physical distance, because what I saw in the restaurants, that they remove some of the tables, and those that were dining in group, they were spaced out about 6 feet. If you're a family, yes, you are seated accordingly. But the general restaurant and eating as a family, eating as a single, eating as a couple, or eating within groups, you're physically distant from each other.
Okay, okay,
So
good.
you might be around a table and you're spaced out, so there is no concern in terms of the person
Okay,
is within
okay,
so
great.
that was visible. That was visible.
Great. And as far as the entertainment at night, especially my favorite place where the speakeasy where Big Mama is, how are they handling that now? And those of you who are going, you'll understand what I'm talking about when you get down there. You'll have to do the speakeasy club. But how is that being handled? Is
All
it
right.
still open or what?
Yes, I mean, in terms of, I stayed at Beaches and Grill. The speakeasy is at Sandoz Ochi Beach Resort.
Mhm.
And all the amenities are available once you arrive. Once the resort opens, once you arrive, all the outlets are available. Now, one of the things that the resort they're doing, which is a part of our platinum protocol of cleanliness, is to maintain the amount of people that can access an area.
Okay.
So yeah, so that will be monitored properly. Even for the club liquid, the disco, or any of the bar, they kind of manage the amount of people that will go in at any one time. And there's also something that I wanted to share, Fred, in terms of the dining experience.
Mhm.
What you realize at the buffet, all the buffets they've been put on hold right now. While the buffet, the framework of the buffets, like for breakfast and for lunch, they're in place, you're not going to see people walking around and
Okay.
handling utensils. So what you're going to see is a staff in their mask or face shield at the buffet station. You're given your plate and you just point out what you need and they'll serve it for you. So you'll see that what you'll experience presently, the restaurants now, they're all either semi-buffet or an a la carte. That's what you'll
Okay.
expect.
Okay, so but basically, you're kind of staying. It's kind of a hybrid plated meal, basically, is what it boils down to. You have your plate, and they'll be serving it to you onto your
That is
plate.
correct.
Okay,
That
and
that
and
is
like you
that is
said,
correct.
on the beach, you don't have to be trying to run around and get in the water with a mask on or anything. You can just, yeah, okay, forget the
Yeah,
mask.
yeah. Definitely. So what I experience at Beaches Negril, some of the clients will ask, are restaurants closed or is that closed? Everything is open at Beaches Negril. I mean, Sandra will speak to Beaches Turks, but everything was open. All the restaurants, the theme park, the water park, the nanny service, all the bars, everything was available. And I'm not saying that the resort was 100%. No, it wasn't. So whether it's 20, 30, 40, 50, whether it's 100, all the outlets, the amenities are available. And that's the beauty about Sandals and Beaches resorts. We're not going to take away 5 of the restaurant because it's only 40%. Everything was available at Beaches and Grill.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I've always stuck with the Beaches and Sandals properties is because how they step up in situations like this. I've been very impressed by it. And now it's time for you to go home.
Yes.
So how's that handled? Step me from their checkout desk, or do you have to go to checkout desk? Can you do it from your room? Just how?
I mean, working with the Sandals and the Beaches resorts for many years. I mean, our process is seamless. You arrive, you're going to tell them your depart. You're going to they have your departure date. You're going to make sure that you indicate the flight that you're going on. They will go through and check and make sure that everything is fine. So the day before you go, you depart. As a matter of fact, 2 days before I departed, they sent me my checkout envelope, letting me know the date that I'm checking out, what time my bags will be picked up, my transportation time, and my flight time. That was sent to my room 2 days before. You can then check to see, because in the envelope, it will give you a readout of your bill. So if there's a bill, you can actually go down to the front desk and clear it. before. I didn't have anything on my bill, so I just got up. My shuttle was at 7. I got up 6:30, got something to drink, some coffee, went to the desk, gave them my key, gave them my envelope, and I was good to go. I waited for my shuttle. It was there 10 minutes before. I was sanitized, and the process again in terms of getting on the shuttle, ensuring that your bags go on with you, sanitizing, wearing your mask, and off you go to the airport.
Great. And when you get to the airport, one of the things I have in the packages that I've sold to folks here is something known as Club Mobay. And with Club Mobay, you're being handled when you arrive and when you leave. The nice thing about when you arrive with a meet and greet service. So somebody's there time you step off the plane with a sign with your name on it and walking you past the line of other people who don't have Club Mobay. So you can just look at them real funny and stuff and walk by them. But,
and just wave to them.
Look real important as you're walking by them. But that's part of your package. And so what happens when it's time for you to leave, there's a special line where you don't have to get in the line, the long line where everybody else is. There's a special line for Club No Day people. And that's where you will get into and be led to their lounge. You don't even have to sit outside where everybody else is sitting. You'll be in the lounge where you can continue to eat and drink until it's time for your flight to take off. So that works perfectly.
And I utilize Club Mobay on my way out. So it's the way to go. It is the way to go.
Exactly. And let me cover the elephant that's in the room right now in the last few days about coming home and having to be retested. And, I was reading online, people were going nuts. Where do I find a testing place? Once again, Sandals has stepped up. Sandals is saying that 72 hours before it's time for you to depart, they will do a complimentary COVID test and have it ready for you in 24 hours. And with all the necessary documentation that you will need. So you will get that information and you will get on the plane and go about your business and going home. Once again, you'll be wearing the mask and flying with everybody else that's wearing a mask on the plane. Pernell, is there anything extra you want to add?
I felt safe. All of you that are on, you're in safe hands with Fred. You can book and travel to Sandals and Beaches resorts in that level of comfort. I've always said as well, just don't drop your guard, just especially when you're at the airport and you're en route on the flight. Just protect yourself, protect others. And that, we'll take care of the rest. When you get to the resort, we'll definitely take care of the rest to make sure that, you're safe. I returned, I followed my county requirement for 10 days quarantine. And, just to give me a peace of mind as well, I did my COVID retesting and got the results, so I'm good. So, I can say I'm a live testimony of traveling to Jamaica to Sandals and Beaches resorts, came back healthy and ready and raring to go again. So, I had a good time. And as I said, you can book with Fred, work with Fred. You're in good hands, and Sandals and Beaches resorts will take care of the rest.
Good. And that's why I wanted everybody to hear what an actual live testimony, because there have been so many things thrown out there on the various social sites. So I wanted people to be able to actually hear a live testimony about it. There are a couple of questions on here. In fact, several of them I can even answer. Who knew? Sean is asking, is Quest Diagnostic a certified COVID tester? Yes, they are. They are certified, as well as when I've had my COVID test done, I've gone to a company called Med7. Med7 in turn sends their samples over to Quest Diagnostic to take care of it. And so they are, what you're asking about, are they certified? They are certified to be able to do the things that are necessary. Christine wants to know about the 10-day negative result, having enough time to get the results back. I've taken 2 COVID tests. One started out in the early days of the COVID test. I didn't get it back until 5 days later. The last time I took it, I got it back in 3 days. So they've gotten much better on getting those tests back in the right amount of time without it being an issue. And let's see. Sean wanted to know about the departure. We've already talked about that on what happens on the way back. Linda wants to know about the test negative with the wonder if you test negative with the last test. Not quite sure I understand what you're asking about that, Linda, but let me go over it again. You're going to be tested before you leave, and you're going to be tested when you're returning. So you are going to be having those two tests done. And on the return, you're going to be tested at least 72 hours before you turn. The COVID vaccine, don't depend on that. Absolutely do not depend on that, because too many of these states they're not having enough vaccines to be able to give people the shots. Don't depend on that. They've said nothing about it as it being in place of the different tests for COVID. Let's see. Did Purnell disappear on us?
Yeah, he just texted me. He said he got kicked off. Keep going. I'll text him back and let him know to just sign back in.
Let's see. Sean wants to know if we visit another Sandals resort while there. Do we need to carry documentation? Yes, carry that documentation with you. One of the things I was reading was that at night, they're being very careful about people traveling at night to different locations. So if you get stopped, whether you're in a taxi or whatever, you need to be able to show I'm clean. Back to Linda again, and who pays for the extra nights if you have to extend your stay? That's the insurance part that I'm going to talk about a little later, but I understand what you're asking. Just to give you a quick run through, if unfortunately you get to the airport to try to come back home and you test positive, if you've purchased the Sandals and Beaches insurance, they will handle the cost of your stay. Now, if it goes beyond 14 days, they will even handle beyond 14 days. If you've been doing everything that you're supposed to do, they will handle it. Let me see. I think Sean was saying he thinks, Linda, what happens if you test negative when you're in Jamaica? Well, once you're there, you shouldn't have to be getting tested anymore until it's time to leave. So there's no use running up to find a test site. Let's see. I think that might be now.
Sorry, Fred, I just got
Yeah, I see what I thought we had said something. You decided you had it, so I thought you had left.
Oh no! It just booted me. It just booted me off, so it took me a while to get back on. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. The insurance. I'm going to be sending everybody the cost of the insurance. Now, here's something to keep in mind. Some of you, during certain months, Sandals and Beaches was giving complimentary insurance coverage. It happened in, I can't remember the first time, I think it was like December. Yes, you had up until a certain time in December, I think it was. Now you have up until the last of January to book, January 31st to book a vacation. And if you book within this month of January, they will give the complimentary insurance. And it's really, really a good insurance. I'm gonna send all that information out to everybody so you'll have that in hand. Otherwise, my suggestion is that to purchase the Sandals insurance, I checked with the insurance company that I ordinarily use, and they are not handling staying over if you prove positive on the way coming back. So my suggestion is to do it with Sandals, the insurance, and I'll be sending information to everybody about that so you'll know what costs are and like that. I'm not sure if they do the same thing that the other insurance companies do. They figure it on age and cost of trip and length of time and all that. So I'm not sure. Either one of you guys know about that, how they figure out the cost?
Yes, there's insurance for children, and there's insurance for adults.
Do they take in the age factor when they're figuring out the cost?
Yes, 2 to 11 is considered as a child,
Mm-hmm.
and the 11 and older is considered
I think you're
as an
breaking up a little
adult for
bit.
the insurance. So you'll see the insurance ranging anywhere from $95 per child.
Yeah, I think you broke up a little bit, but
So you'll see the insurance.
okay.
You there?
Yeah, I'm there. You were breaking up some. I guess what I'm asking is, if you are 70 years old, is your insurance cost going to be different from somebody who's 20 years old?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And that's why I'll have to.
So the last time I checked, yes, the last time I checked, the child's rate ranged from anywhere from $95 per child, and it's age 2 to 11. So you'll see about $95 approximately, and then the adult rate is about $114 per person. But it also goes with the Christmas period. But the typical is $95 for child, $114. But I can confirm, if there are any changes. But yes, you'll see the age range change the cost of the travel insurance.
So I will be looking over the different age information that I've received from people, and I'll be talking to you individually to find out, to give you what your cost might be. So we'll get that one going down the road. And let's see. I think that might be it for Jamaica. Any other questions on the Jamaica side of things? Speak now or forever hold your peace. And we will get into Sandra, and let me see if I can share screen with this video that I want to play. Let me find it. Sandra, why don't you start off, and so it won't be dead air, and when I get the video started. Again, this is Sandra Locke. She is the representative handling the Pacific Northwest area, and she just got back from Turks and Caicos. So she's going to take us through the same path that Pernell took us through.
Yeah.
You have.
Go ahead. What were you going to say? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said you got it.
Oh, I got it. Give me hands the microphone over.
That's right. Pass the mic.
Yep. It's funny. I am the worst person to represent the Caribbean because I was there for 7 days and I spent so much time indoors between doing virtual events and things. Like I can't carry a tan to save my life. So I come back home and my husband looks at me and he's like, "Did you see the sun at all?" And we had the most beautiful weather. It was maybe, I think the highest we ever got was 85 degrees, gorgeous breeze, just all over the place. And at night, surprisingly, this is the first time that I've been in Turks and Caicos after, like, in the winter-ish season. And I have a I have a jean jacket that I love, and I never get to wear it on island because I'm always too hot. And I was able to wear a light jacket as I'm walking to dinner. There were I think just about every night, with the exception of one night, we ate outdoors. We dined al fresco. And I was able to wear my jacket because it was just a teeny tiny little bit of a little bit of a chill breeze, not cold in the sense that what we're dealing with here, 44 degrees and sunny. Sorry, Fred. But sunny.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. And Deborah too. But it was, I think the lows that we saw in the evening were maybe like 74, 75 degrees. So like just balmy, beautiful Caribbean weather. It was just perfect. Did you get the video to work? Do you want me to shut down while you do video?
Hold on, I'm getting ready to do it now. And the one thing I always have to remember is to put the sound on. It's such a little small box down at the bottom, but I think I've got it now. Here we go. As soon as I make it play. Okay, that will be.
Welcome to Jamaica, friends. Welcome to my home.
Hold on, I think I've got something going in the background here. Okay, Sandra, now you got it.
I was jamming. What are you talking about? That was perfect.
That was awesome.
Like I said, I wanted you to be able to see that there are other locations. So when you start planning for your next visit um, to Samos and beaches, that there are other islands. In fact, I might be having something coming up for Antigua in the next few days and stuff. So, Sandra, it's on you. You got it. Take us from home to the airport to the islands.
I will do it. I will do it. So, it's funny. One of the smart reasons, one of 1,000 smart reasons right now to have a travel advisor, especially somebody that's as knowledgeable as Fred, is because you never travel by yourself. And especially nowadays, every island has their own entry requirement. So now more than ever, it's imperative, that you trust your vacation days to somebody that knows what they're doing. So, and Fred and I, we've known each other for years, a little bit longer than Pernell has. So I like to just throw that in just a tiny bit. Pernell's yours now, but you were mine first. So for me, I live just outside of Seattle. So I flew out of SeaTac. I am a big fan of red eyes. I will take a red eye to get to the East Coast. And then in the way I look at it is I fall asleep on the West Coast and I wake up on the East Coast, right? And then it's just a puddle jumper, whether you're coming out of Charlotte or Miami or DFW, wherever it is. So I was in Turks. I was there from the 10th through the 17th. Turks and Caicos, the government there is the TCI government, Turks and Caicos Islands. And the first big difference between Turks and Jamaica is that the COVID testing window of time is a little bit narrower. So you have to have a negative test result within 5 days of arrival as opposed to 10. And to kind of speak to that, you talk about Antigua, you talk about these different destinations. It could be somewhere that has a 72-hour turnaround. It could be somewhere like St. Lucia that's got a 7-day turnaround time. So again, all the more reason to kind of stay connected to somebody like Fred, who can make sure that who checks that box and knows the right questions to ask. So negative test result had to be there within 5 days of arrival. So for me, flying in on a Sunday, the earliest that I could test was Tuesday. I took my test on Wednesday. I'm actually quite, not to rub it in, but I'm quite lucky. I live about 25 minutes away from a drive-up testing location here, just around the corner from Auburn, Washington. Sorry, I know there's an Auburn, California. So Auburn, there's also an Auburn, Alabama. I saw somebody was in Alabama listening. I think Sean. So for me, it was relatively easy. I was able to go online and schedule the test ahead of time. I knock on wood because everything is fluid and changing, but as of yet, I have used that different location, or that same location, excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times now. I have had a COVID test done 5 times since all of this started, and have gone here 4 out of the 5 times, and every single time the turnaround time has been really quick. They're partnered with University of Washington labs. So just like the accreditation, like what you were talking about, where you have to be using a lab that is CLIA accredited, and whatever accreditations are required by the islands. So for Turks, they would accept a PCR test. So I just go straight for the one where they poke you in the back of the brain. That was mine. My saving grace, side note, my saving grace is that there's some really good looking firefighters that do the test, and that kind of softens the blow a little bit. Right. So I got my test done, got my results emailed to me. And they also, when we left, there was a little QR code on the sheet of paper that they gave to me. And so at any point, I can just use my phone to scan it and check on it. I got my test results back very quickly, within less than 36 hours, actually. I got them pretty quick. Another requirement for TCI is that you have to have travel insurance. And I know that Fred has kind of touched on it quite a bit. And for right now, for anybody that is booked now through the end of the month. And if you're traveling before, I think it's August 31st of this year, there is a complimentary travel insurance that is included for clients going to Sandals or beaches. The good thing about going into Turks, because Turks does require travel insurance, it's mandatory. It's part of what you have to submit for when you go to submit your travel authorization form. I'll come to that in a second. But I got an email from the beaches.com guys internally, and it had everything that I needed, the proof of insurance, and it was super easy for me to just take that email and turn it into a PDF, and then I just uploaded it super, super quick. So similar to Jamaica, you do need to submit for travel authorization on the TCI website. Really easy to use, but they will not, you can't complete it until you have both proof of that insurance and also your test results, your negative test results. So you've got kind of a narrow window that you can submit for it. I was a little bit nervous. I kind of felt like it was coming down to the wire. I started the travel authorization when I received my copy of my proof of insurance, which was about 2:07 on a Friday afternoon on the West Coast. Oh, I was terrified. I knew that I was going to be in trouble. But TCI they've got their ducks in a row. I had my approval within 2 hours. I got my approval back at about 4:31 because I clocked it. So I got my authorization. Actually, Purnell was doing a little show and tell, and I think I've got mine here. Yeah, so this is what I received from TCI. Just a little one-page document. It's got a copy of, it talks about my passport number, date of birth, so that they can reference and make sure that the person that's coming in is the person that says they are. And it was super easy. So I printed off this travel authorization. I printed off a copy of my test result, my negative test result. And I highlighted the spot for my name and my date of birth just so that it was super easy for everybody to be able to see it. And then I printed off a copy of that proof of insurance as well, just because God forbid you get somewhere and your phone dies, or you can't sync up to Wi-Fi, or something happens, the dreaded iOS 15.5 or however many updates they have, and all of a sudden your system just kind of freezes. You don't want to be in that spot. So it's always a good idea just to have a printed copy with you on hand. And then I went to SeaTac. I got to SeaTac from the moment that I left my car. Like, I parked the Sandals mobile across the street at the Crown Plaza. I know you know exactly which one I was at. So I parked the car, had my mask on, and from the shuttle to the airport, through the airport, flight, everything, that mask stayed on. And everybody else has been really vigilant about it as well. I think that there is a certain level of respect, not for your fellow travelers, but also for your flight attendants, your folks that are working behind the desk, your luggage people, everybody that you're encountering. I think that it just kind of has become this universal symbol of, like, I'm wearing this mask to protect myself and also to protect you. So that's just, I didn't see anybody challenging it. So from the moment that I got to SeaTac, I couldn't do online check-in, but I think that it's that way for a reason. I think that they want to ensure that one of the flight attendants, or one of the gate attendants, is checking your documentation. So they wouldn't let me check in ahead of time. But it was super smooth to do right there at the airport. So I just walked up, did my check-in right there, handed my bags over, all that jazz. Everything else felt pretty similar to what we're used to. The only time that I pulled the mask even down was when I stepped up to TSA. I have TSA pre-check and global entry, and so they just want to make sure that they verify the face that's on the passport matches the face that's standing in front of you. So just pulled it down, a big smile, and then put it back up, and you're good to go. I will also say, if anybody is traveling for the first time right now for whatever trip you have on deck, that until further notice, TSA is allowing you to bring in a larger container of hand sanitizer. You're allowed to bring a larger size in your carry-on luggage. I think it's a 12. Purnell, you and I talked about this before you left. Wasn't it a 12 fluid ounce that you were allowed to take through?
Yes, but I think mine was over 12, and yeah, mine was over 12, but while they allow you to go through, they took it and had it checked, swabbed, and all of that kind of thing. But may I tell you though, coming back from Jamaica,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have it.
Oh, interesting. So maybe it's just an allowance to leave the
Yeah,
States, it
yeah,
sounds like. That's good to know.
yeah.
That's
They wouldn't have it. So I had to take a smaller bottle and check the
okay.
big one.
I had a fluid ounce or 12-ounce container that I had, one of those raw sugar ones from Target, and they did pass it through the mass spec just to, they do a quick little gel test on it to make sure that it is what it says it is, but then they let you go through. So that's good to know that coming back, you might have to check that. So
What you might want to do also, and what my wife and I are preparing for, is to buy the packets of the little sheets that have the sanitizing, the sanitized sheets, to buy a couple of packs of those and put them in your luggage. That way you don't have to worry about the size of the bottle, anything like that. And you can write down things if you need to as well.
that's a good idea. It's probably good for electronics too. When you sit down in the seats, we didn't, the flights that I was on, none of them had the seat back screens. But it's probably a good idea if you've got those hand sanitizer things, if you're going to be using one of the seat backs, just make sure you get all the nooks and crannies. So boarding the flight, very similar experience to Purnell's. Like I said, nobody was really questioning the masks. Everybody was just kind of grateful to be able to go to paradise. So I don't think they really minded so much. My flight, I did the 11 p.m. out of SeaTac into Charlotte. I love me that Charlotte airport. There's something about having those rocking chairs and getting off the flight, grab myself a cup of coffee and go sit in one of my rocking chairs. And they sanitize those too. They've got signs and everything. And just watching the sun come up before I head to paradise. So that part was pretty plain Jane, pretty easy. When we were getting ready to board in Charlotte, so I did SeaTac to Charlotte and then Charlotte down to Turks. The airport code there is PLS. Before we were allowed to board in Charlotte, they were also checking our travel authorization form, our negative COVID test. So again, just another reason to have a printed version of it handy. My flights, both of them, sadly, because we're in the travel industry and we want to see travel come back, neither one of them was full. So that was kind of a blessing. I never sat next to somebody. It was just me in my window seat, and I didn't have to worry about anybody sitting on the other side of me. Although I will say also a little fun fact, when you come into the islands, it's always a good idea, at least for Jamaica and also for Turks, if you sit on the left-hand side of the plane, because usually the pilots will bank a certain way. St. Lucia as well. And then you get a really nice view out of your window of just like, oh, I'm in paradise. Look at this blue. It's gorgeous.
Good question.
Yeah.
When you get to Turks, do they have a program like meet and greet to carry through, or are the lines not a problem in Turks?
I have to say for this time, it wasn't an issue. I do know that they have a fast track. I'll be honest, I didn't use it, partly because I didn't know about it, but also because it was, I mean, they've got a well-oiled machine over there. Most clients that are coming through, most guests and families that are coming through PLS right now, the airport there, are headed to beaches. We make up quite a large number of the quantity of beds on the island. But we don't, and the other thing too is at the Montego Bay Airport, there's a beautiful Sandals Arrivals Lounge. In Turks, because it's much smaller, we have a beaches arrivals desk that is outside, so you kind of get through. So I get ahead of myself, forgive me. So you deplane and you walk down the ramp. You've got your luggage, your checked or your carry-on luggage, excuse me, and you get to the first doors. And before you're allowed inside, they've got a thing that they spray your hands down, sanitize. Everybody is still wearing their mask, although Lord knows you're about this close to being able to taking it off because you're here, you're so close. So anytime that you go into the airport, they're sanitizing your hands. The first person that you meet is a medical officer who is there from the government, and they do a temperature check right there before you get a chance to get to immigration and customs. They do a temp check. They check your negative COVID test. They check your TCI travel authorization form. So again, all of the same docs that they checked in Charlotte and further in SeaTac, they checked it again on island. And then once you clear that guy, then you head over towards immigration. and they do all the stuff they usually do. And then you get further into customs, you grab your luggage, your checked luggage, and then you move forward into customs and they clear everything the way that they do, just as normal. The biggest difference is you're wearing a mask and there's quite a bit of physical distancing. They've got stickers on the floor to kind of mark, like, stay here, stay here, stay here. And everybody was pretty mindful. You had clusters, but it was clusters of families, which is understandable, right? Yeah, so in the past, when you get out of immigration, you clear customs, you clear immigration in a BC before COVID. There is a desk on the other side, and there's a beaches representative that is waiting for you with a big smile, and they write down your information. They've got a taxi that they will coordinate and take you over to the resort. It's about a 15-minute ride away, not very far at all. It's really nice. They didn't have anybody staffing the beaches desk at this point. It was a government official, but they do the exact same thing. They say, where are you headed? They coordinate the taxi. So with the Sandals and the Beaches product, no matter which resort you're headed to, we pick you up from the airport and take you to whichever resort you selected. So here in Turks, it's the exact same thing. It's just that instead of a beaches person that is standing there speaking to you, you've got a government official, but they take care of it.
That's good. Yeah. And so they keep the distance in traveling during your transfers. And that's one thing. I don't know if everybody that's going to be on the Jamaica trip realizes it. I don't know if they've been reading everything that I have, but part of any Sandals and Beaches package is that your transportation to and from the resort is included. So you don't have to be standing out there trying to wave down a cab. It's all included. They pick you up, they take you to your resort, and they bring you back. Same thing.
For sure. So there was once we got into the taxi, there were a total of 3 other colleagues that I had with me, and since we were all in the same group, they put all of us in the same shuttle together. But it was a van that normally probably would have seated about 10. And in the past, they would have filled every single space, and that's not happening now. So the taxi driver comes over. They are masked and also gloved. That's one of the requirements at TCI, is that they wear gloves too at all times. And that's just that's a government requirement for their taxi drivers. That's just a box that they have to check. So we hand sanitize again. A lot of hand sanitizing that happened on this trip. So we sanitize again before we jump into the shuttle to take us over to Turks. But and even then, we're still staying masked up. The driver stays masked up as well. And then we got to Paradise. We got to Beaches, Turks, and it was amazing.
Good. And I gather the same type of thing on the resort, that you can wander on the beach and even in the lobby, as long as you're not in closed-in areas without your mask on, without being a problem.
Yeah, for sure.
And let me say this, on all of this that we're talking about today, things are still very fluid. So all of this can change within the next couple of months. We're not traveling until July, so no telling what might happen between now and July. But I want everybody to be prepared for whatever updates come about. And like I said, I will be constantly letting you know of any new updates, because I don't want anybody to come to the airport being surprised. But my main thing is that I need out of everybody these rules that we're talking about in order to travel to get in there. I want you to really, really pay attention to those and follow them, because these islands are trying to protect not only their economy, but their people. So it's not like you're going to a huge place like the United States. If you start coming in there and bringing COVID, that could literally destroy the whole island. So they're being very strict about what they're doing. But once you get there, that's where all the fun starts. And again, the main thing I want you to see was that there's another island that you can go to under the Sandals and Beaches umbrella and have loads of fun and still be in the beautiful properties. So let me see. Sean had a question. Now, I have an answer for this, but I want to hear if you guys know anything about this. For TSA pre-check, if one spouse has it and the other doesn't, Can you go through the, you're getting ready, Sandra's shaking her head already. Okay, go ahead, you can talk on that
I've
one.
got Sean, that's a real good question. It depends on how much you like your spouse. No, I'm kidding. I have TSA pre and I've also got global entry, and for both of them, it's not one of those you can choose to take somebody with you. So you got to make a decision. I'm a firm believer that I paid good money for this. Parker goes over into his line and I go over here and I just wait for him until he's done.
So Sean, that means that you and the wife have to get them, so you have enough time to be able to go ahead and get that taken care of without any problems. Okay, anybody else have any questions? So please speak now. Yeah, have we done that good a job that you know everything there is to know? So like I said, I just want everybody to be aware and to stay safe. When this is over, when this webinar is over, just keep wearing your mask. My wife and I, we started doubling up. So they were mentioning about doubling up. We started doubling up. So just wear your mask, stay safe, don't be around a lot of crowds. Remember, you have a vacation coming up and you don't need anything getting in the way of it. I remember when I was an avid skier, there used to be something, well, it still is, something called the National Brotherhood of Skiers, an organization. And every year they would hold the summit. And the summit was like a big ski conference party for a week. And when we knew that was the year that it was going to be happening, we looked both ways before we crossed the street. We didn't be around anybody that could make us safe. So I'm just telling you to do the same thing, and we'll all get together there and have a blast at the island. And let me see, she got off. Diane Holland was on. I was getting ready to ask if she had anything to say, but she seems to have gotten off. We must have covered it pretty well that she was able to leave. So at any rate, once again, I want to thank everybody for showing up and hearing these pieces of information. If you have any other questions that you want to get answered after this is over, just drop me an email. One of the things I would advise you to do is to continue making deposits. So when I come to you for the last payment, it won't be this huge number. So, please, if you can make, put a little down on it, a little something down on it so you can lessen the cost at the end. Other than that, I want to thank my two buddies here for helping me out with this today. As always, they have my back covered. So is there anything you two want to say as a final farewell?
Thank you. Thank you as always, Fred. I really, really appreciate you giving us the opportunity. I remember as well for your group, if you have anyone that was on today that hasn't booked with you yet, you have the ability to take care of them within the next 14 days with the document that I sent you. So thank you once more, everyone. As I can say, you're all in good hands. And Fred, has good support in myself and Sandra. So thank you, everyone.
And Sandra?
Yeah, for sure. The next time that if you have anybody that's interested in hearing a little bit more about Turks as an island destination, the resort that we have there, if you have water babies, if you have beach babies, I have copious photos and videos that I took and put them on my phone. There's some really incredible snorkeling that can take place in Turks that will change your life. And it's within a walking distance of the water sports desk. So if you guys ever decide if you want to learn a little bit more about Beaches Turks, the mothership, if you will, for the Beaches resorts, I would be happy to share some experiences. They would do an incredible job over there. It feels like family and coming home, and I'd be happy to inspire you guys a little bit more if you ever wanted it.
That's the other thing I meant to add about Sandra. She is the resident scuba diver. And I didn't find that out until, I guess, during the summer of last year. I did not realize she was such an avid scuba diver. So when it comes to the water, as she said, water babies, that's what she is. One other thing, too, there are other things to do on the island, and you can even take scuba diving lessons. But if you're certified already, there are other things to do. A lot of in all the emails that I've sent you, down in my signatures, you'll see various links, one of them being Island Routes. Click on that, look at the other activities you can do while you're on the island, especially those who are staying there for 7 days, 7 nights, and click on that. And if you see something you like, click on it and get her done, and go with it from there. So I'm not going to hold everybody because I know everybody's got a lot to do in their day. So thanks again. And I'll be coming back to you if there's any new updates. And like I said, I will be showing something on Antigua at some point, and that you'll learn a little bit about another island. So take care, everybody, and stay safe.
Bye, guys.